Hey everyone, it's AC from the Lexical team. Today we're going to continue on our tutorial for how to build an editor in Lexical React. Last time we left off with just kind of a basic button that inserts a heading node. So it's kind of the beginnings of a toolbar and a little bit of like how to interact with the editor through the UI. So today we're going to expand the toolbar a little more and try to work a little more with like a more, I guess, interesting or like practical application of something like headings, and then also maybe add support for lists, and in doing so, kind of expand our toolbar a bit and work a little bit with more with the UI. So let's dive in. So, like I said last time, we did set up this heading plugin, which does something really. It basically is connected to this button. So we render a button here. When we click it, we get the root element of the lexical editor, and we append. We create a text node, append that, create a heading node, append the text node to the heading node, and then append the heading node to the root. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but that's more or less we're just kind of like creating a heading node. So you can't like choose the text; it's hard coded. You select the editor, you click heading, and it inserts "Hello World." Right. So that's pretty much it. And so what would be like a more typical, I suppose, is for you to like highlight some text or select some text and then be able to convert that into a heading, right? Or convert that into change the block type of it, so to speak, right? And so let's try to do that first, right? Let's try to see if we can make it so we can just instead of inserting a hard coded "Hello World" heading, we can just select arbitrary text and convert it into to a heading. So that's step one. So first of all, let's get rid of this my. That's annoying me for some reason. It's just heading plugin for us. So what we can do first, so Lexical exposes a helper called set blocks type. And that basically is going to allow you to pass in a selection and a creator function, and it's going to try to wrap your selection in whatever block type is created by the function you provide. And I'll show you how that works in a sec. So first, let's get rid of this piece. We don't need this anymore. Instead of getting the root, we will need to get this selection. So the way you do that in Lexical is just with something similar to get root. It's called get selection. Second thing we want to do is check if it's a range selection. There are three types of selection in Lexical right now: grid selection, range selection, and node selection. And for purposes of this, we're just going to want to deal with range selection. That's when you're selecting like a range of nodes. Usually some text is involved. This is kind of the most common one, and you usually have to special case the other ones. So we'll just deal with range selection for now. And if you want to layer in node selection and grid selection in your own editor, that's something that may be the subject of future videos. So check if it's a range selection. And by the way, set blocks type only works with range selection or maybe grid selection, so we have to do this check anyway. So set blocks type experimental comes from lexical selection. I didn't think I had that installed, but interesting. It must be cached from earlier. But anyway, so yeah, we have set block types experiment, so we're probably gonna want to like actually go in and make sure we have this. So I'll do npm install. You'd have to do this typically to get access to this utility. I was playing around earlier, and I think I installed it and didn't clear out the module cache. So that's probably why I'm able to import it here. And what's actually happening is that probably installed. I actually don't want it to be a hard dependency. Let's make it a dev dependency. And then we need all these versions to match. So I'm just going to downgrade it to 8.0 like the rest of my lexical packages for now. And then we'll just run that one more time to make sure we have the right version. What did I do? Oh, trailing comma. Okay, let's get rid of that. Cool. So that should work fine. And then we have, it's still called, in actually 0.9 is called set blocks type, and we dropped the experimental tag, so this is a stable API. But on 0.8, which is the version I'm using in this series so far, it's just called set blocks type experimental. So that's why we have to do that for now. So we won't need these anymore. And we'll still need to create heading nodes. So what we're going to do with this is the API here, it takes, you can see two parameters, selection and element creator, as I mentioned before. So we can pass as parameter 1, the selection, which we got from get selection, and then we'll pass the creator function, which to mirror the functionality we have now, we just do create heading node, and we would say it's an H1. Cool. And so why are we complaining? Indentation. Okay. Better? What have I done? Okay, cool. Really need to work on my editor environment. This is like not having to fix indentation manually is not ideal. Anyway, so now what we should expect to see, let's refresh this to make sure we got all the changes. We should expect to see like this, when you click heading, should be converted into, and so that's kind of similar behavior as before, so let's change the text. So my name is AC. Whoops. And then, okay, cool. So that works. So now instead of like just inserting hard-coded text, we're just converting whatever is we select into a heading. So that's a good step in the right direction. So if we're going to expand this out a little more, we'd probably want to support like different heading types. And this kind of like leads us into how you could like maybe start building a toolbar, right? So right now we just have a single button called heading, but like there are different types of headings, right? So we could call this instead like H1, and we could say, well, like that's now gonna just insert an H1, and that would imply that we'll add H2, H3, H4, whatever, right? So let's add support for through H3, let's say. So you can see here that we're passing in the tag we want to create heading node. So we just need like maybe for now a couple more. We could do a drop down or something theoretically just to keep it simple. Let's add a couple more buttons. We'll have H1, H2, and H3, and we'll kind of continue to expand our toolbar here. So one way we can do that is probably by just saying like, let's add a wrapper around this, and then let's have a keeping it simple for now, hard coding some things. We're just gonna map these tags to buttons. Whoops, did I like drop that button from my clipboard somehow? I did, great. So it's okay, not hard to rewrite. So we have our click handler, and then we'll need a key actually, since we're using map, and then we'll have in here tag dot to uppercase, just like that for now. And so then let's see, we're not really returning this, are we? Let's do this instead to make it return the actual React element. And then we should be good. Yeah, so we have H1, H2, H3 there, but that's not really doing it. It's all going to insert. It's all going to call the same click handler right now, right? So it's all going to insert an H1. So we need to kind of adapt that click handler a bit. So what we can do here instead is maybe say like we have a tag, which is something like this, and this that, and then we'll pass the tag in here, and then we'll have to change this because this will just typically take the event, but instead of doing that, we'll call on click, and we'll pass in the tag. Cool. That should work fine, unless I'm missing something. So H1 gives us that, H2, H3, and this is just like user agent styles, right? So we have additional styling applied to H1 from the last video, where we were just kind of playing around with classes, so we added a weird background color to H1. So we could do, we could have, instead of relying on user agent styles, we can add our own here, right? We can say glyph editor H2, and probably H3 would be glyph editor H3, and then make sure we have the comma. Go to the styles. So this will be H2, this would be H3. Let's go something like, let's say we can control the font sizes, right? So maybe this font size is gonna be like, I don't know, let's say 48 pixels would be our, and you might want to use like EM or something in real life. So don't take this as like best practices. This is just me giving a few examples. Now we have that. Maybe let's say, just to make it interesting, let's say like we want to add an underline to our H1s, and our H2s would be like, what's something we could do to this? Like maybe these are italic, which it's escaping me how you do that now. Why am I forgetting how to add italic styles to text? Anyway, so let's say like maybe instead of that, we'll do font weight. Bold. And maybe we want that here too. So this will be bold and underlined. This will be just bold, and this will be just like a regular heading, regular text. So now H1 becomes underlined, H2 becomes just bold, H3 becomes, so wait a second. So let's go H1, H2, H3. So that's like, you can't really tell that it's applying our H2 styles. So we can add a color of like, let's go green. So we should see that update, unless I missed something somewhere, of course, but that's not the problem. So why is our 2 not with editor H2? Oh, you're not allowed to just say green, I suppose. Right, no quotes. My bad. There we go. Much better. Now we have green H2s and regular colored H3s, underlines on our H1s. So yeah, you can kind of add whatever styles you want to your headings. You can make them do whatever you want. That's just kind of just a quick example. So let's talk about how we could do something like, well, let me fix this TypeScript error first. So I probably need to do something like, so heading tag, and then I would just do like, probably could even make this configurable, right? Through a prop, but I'll say constant heading tags, this type, whoops, heading tag array. Cool. So that'll make TypeScript quiet. Right. So now we have these buttons. So now let's try to see if we can add lists really quick. And so we'll just expand our toolbar out and add a couple more buttons. Unordered list and order list conversion, I guess. That'll be a little bit different. We can't use set block types for that because lists are a little more complicated. That's why we have the list package and plugin for that. And so the first thing we'll need to do there is add that package. So we can just do npm install. I think that's how you do that. It's just dev now, right? And then at Lexical /list. And this is just going to give us access to some of the things, like the nodes and things that we need in order to actually use the list plugin. So we expose the list plugin from Lexical React, but you still need to register the nodes and things like that to support it. And so we'll need to, and you have to access the commands and things. All that is a Lexical list package. And so once we have that, we will need to, we will need to make sure we have the same, why? I thought I said dev. Okay. So let's go here and let's go to 8. And then just run an install, and then I'm going to restart this dev server because just to make sure we get all the new node modules picked up. Cool. So that looks right now that we have a list. So we can add, now we can try adding list plugin here. And that comes from the Lexical React package, as you can see. And so let's look at what that does for a sec. So if we go to list plugin, maybe, here we go. We can look at so we actually ship like source maps or source files with the npm package. So you can actually see in development in the node modules like what's going on. But here you can see this is the list plugin, right? So it's abstracting over a lot of things, but like the public API here is we're just we're calling use list in here, and so that is just registering a bunch of commands effectively. So what that does is it makes it so you can dispatch these commands in the editor, and it'll do certain things like insert a number list, insert a bullet list, remove a list, whatever, right? So all you have to do is dispatch those commands, and that's sort of what the plugin provides out of the box. So if we go here, let's see, how do we want to do this? We're going to need a button to like dispatch the commands, right? We have our heading plugin. We don't want to add list to that, right? Because then it wouldn't be a heading plugin anymore. So I'm thinking what we do is we add Toolbar plugin. And then from here, we would say like, we'd probably still want to have the editor. And then we would want to return. So you can kind of compose plugins, which I think is kind of cool. But let's just do, maybe let's make this a div so we can style it, because I got a feeling we're going to need to. And then we can return heading plugin here. And then maybe we'll make a list toolbar plugin. Let's rename this so it's consistent. So now we have heading toolbar plugin. We could probably rename this later, but so we won't need this in here anymore. We just need toolbar plugin. And then we can have list toolbar plugin. Probably just copy this. So let's make this list toolbar plugin. And so we're gonna need the click handler still. Actually, we could still use tags, right? Because list still, the list still plugins, sorry, the list plugin still distinguishes between those two, right? You can have OL or UL, so we can kind of use tags to distinguish between those two. But we'll need to do something different in here, right? We can't use set blocks type. We don't really care about selection. We don't even need to care about editor.update because when you dispatch a command, it's implicitly wrapped in an update if there's not already one ongoing. So we can we don't even have to worry about that really. And we can say, I was hoping that we'll come back to this piece for now. Let's not do that. I think we might export the tag types from the list package. Let me see, list tag type, no. For now, let's go just OL, UL, like that, and we'll fix it later. So get to the interesting part. So if tag triple equals OL, then we want to do editor.dispatch command insert ordered list, and you do have to like add the second argument even if you don't plan to, even if it isn't, it's just undefined, which it is in this case, right? With this dispatch command, with the insert ordered list command, the payload type is void, but you have to add it anyway. We should probably do something about that, but not right now. So return. And then if it's not, then we would do dispatch command. We would do insert unordered list command, like that. So that becomes our click, and then we just have list tags.map, and then I guess we don't need that. This returns a JSX element, and I'm missing something. List tags. Oh, we have to do the same thing we did before. So that's fine. Let's do type list tag OL or UL, and this would be a list tag array, and this would be a list tag array. Oh, sorry, not an array, just a list tag. And then that should work. For some reason, we still see console errors. What do we have? List plugin, list node and or list item node not registered on editor. Okay, good point. So we need to register those on the editor because we're using them in list plugin. It's not super obvious that you have to do that. That's why we have this console error in here. Ideally, there'd be a way for the plugin to register the node itself, but there are some constraints we have right now that we haven't been able to work through yet that don't allow you to register the node on the plugin itself. You have to do it when you create the editor in the initial config. And so that kind of is a little bit weird. It mixes some concerns. Once again, we'd love to fix that. But for now, you need to import these and register them on the editor. So you have list node and list item node, right? And then that should fix our errors, I think. But we have a weird thing here where our styling's messed up. So let's see if we can sort that out real quick. Let's go with, this probably just needs to be a fragment for now, and then this can have a class name of toolbar wrapper. Cannot type this morning. Toolbar wrapper, and then from there you can do toolbar wrapper, and then you can have just display flex. Cool, and so that fixes us up now there. So now we just have like a toolbar with display flex that's kind of accommodating the width of all of the child elements. So that's pretty straightforward there. So now what we would expect is that when we now that we have these commands wired up, we can change between all these different formats, right? So I would say hello. We have H1, H2, H3 working. OL, UL, still not quite working. I think I might know why that is. Sometimes when you install these packages, so like we basically rely on object references for the command creation, or like to like detect commands. So like you're not like matching a string when we decide which command listeners to trigger. You're actually matching an object reference. So it's like a shared object reference across these modules. And that can actually be a little bit weird sometimes when you're installing packages, because you can end up having different object references for the command identity. And so like this insert ordered list command is actually an object. And so when we decide, when we dispatch this command and Lexical is like, okay, we need to trigger, any command listener associated with this command, it's looking for this exact object reference in the command listener map that we have. And so if it's two different references, obviously they won't match and you won't run any listeners. And so I suspect that's what's happening here, because I've done some weird things with my node modules. Then it's like installing different versions and things. So I'm gonna just get rid of that. Let's get rid of package lock as well. And let's just do a fresh install. Okay, cool. So we have that package installed now. So let's start the dev server back up. So on a fresh install, this should work. Yeah, okay. So we're good now. So we're able to convert between these different types at this point. And so you should also be able to, like if we have separate paragraphs, make them both headings, convert them both to lists, right? So all this should work just out of the box, and it does work pretty well. So that's pretty much it there. I'm not sure why am I still seeing type errors. Probably because the IDE hasn't caught up with the reinstall. So let me try reopening this file. Still nothing. Which is a bit weird. So I might have to restart VS Code to get that to work probably. But anyway, that's in a nutshell like how you would set these things up in Lexical. And you have like your headings list. You have kind of the beginnings of a toolbar here. And I mean, there are many, many, many different ways to do a toolbar in Lexical. It's just as flexible as React is. Really, like all you're doing is accessing the editor and like dispatching commands or like calling editor updates or whatever with some buttons. So how you do it's really up to you. Like one way to do it is just to have a toolbar plugin in the composer, and then have like kind of compose little pieces of that UI through other plugins. Plugins are totally composable, and then just like React components, and so that's a good way to go at it. But like I said, there are many ways to do this. You can check out the playground on our GitHub repo for examples, for our example of how to do it. But there are, like, once again, many, many ways to do this. So I encourage you to explore and find your own solutions. But anyways, I hope this was helpful, and we'll continue in a future video and maybe work on some more interesting and exciting use cases for Lexical. Thank you.